what is the number one fear of human beings? Like every psychology class talks about it. It's the public speaking, but it's never public speaking. I don't want to be judged. I don't want to be ostracized because in our brain that's 200,000 years old, getting kicked out of a tribe means I'm dead. I'm not going to have sex. I won't have babies, and I'm going to die. It's a mortal fear of dying. But if you go back to the 1980s, if I did something stupid in high school or even as an adult, I have to worry about 30 or 40 people judging me and maybe, really kind of kicking me out of a social group. And now with social media, you've got to worry about 5 or 10 million. So the consequences of doing something wrong are unbelievably exponentially increased, which has made us a whole different society, which we could get into. And this is the origin of this pandemic of loneliness that we're in right now, where everybody will agree that we're in pandemic levels of loneliness, and you don't hear anyone saying, I'm lonely, which is a deeper root of this exact problem.
What's happening then?
You ever study French philosopher, this guy named Sartre?
I've read a little bit of his stuff, but just single quotes.
He had this play. It was called Sartre's Hell, where 3 people are locked in a room, basically like this. And it's a play. But the room's not totally locked. Every couple hours, the door opens and you can leave if you want to. And nobody leaves. And they're all desperate to be seen a certain way by someone else. This one guy, I'm paraphrasing, but he wants to be seen as a good person. So he asked this woman in there, please tell me I'm a good person, please. And she says, yeah, you're a good person. But he knows she doesn't mean it. So he stays. The door opens, nobody leaves, and they stay because they're waiting for this confirmation from other people who they are. And in this world today, with how performative and artificial everybody has become, that I've got to show my best self, I've got to hide shame, I've got to conceal all this guilt and the stuff that people carry around. The reason that somebody can feel lonely in a room full of people, and I'm not just talking about on Facebook, I'm saying like in a real room full of people, is because no matter how many times your friends come over and pat you on the back and say, oh, Chris, you did a great job. We love you. You're a great guy. Your spouse might say, oh, we love you and you're a great person. In the back of your mind, you know you're faking it, and you know that none of them really like the real you. And you get at the end of the day, and I'm not saying this is you, but at the end of the day, you're lonely in a room of 150, 200 people because you know that none of them know you and you haven't ever really been seen by anybody. So increased fear of judgment because of social media equals increased performance equals I'm wearing a costume almost all the time. And nobody has ever seen me. Nobody really knows me. So even if they claim to like me, in the back of my brain, there's this little reminder mechanism that says they don't like the real me. And nobody ever has. Nobody's ever seen me. So this is my opinion, but I think that's the root of the pandemic that we're in right now of loneliness. Like we're more connected than ever and more performative than ever at the same time. So we can't really connect. And our brains are wired for 120, 130 person tribe. And we start getting over that and we have massive issues.
It's interesting that a lot of the time the person has been subsumed by the persona, the role that people are playing.
Yeah.
But the persona is incapable of receiving love. It can only receive praise at best. And it feels like a pat on the back. The same as people don't love Chris Hemsworth, they love Thor. They don't love Russell Crowe, they love Gladiator. So how can you be surprised if you don't genuinely existentially feel the connection with your pursuits and your successes and the people around you? You know that they're just applauding the role that you play as opposed to seeing who you are truly.
Yeah. Have you seen the movie Pig with Nicolas Cage?
No.
You got to watch it. Even if you watch this one scene, it's like 5 minutes long. Nicolas Cage plays this guy who's just kind of had enough, and stop performing forever. Like, he doesn't care. He's not mean or anything, just doesn't perform. And he goes to this restaurant. He's a famous chef and he's exiled and stuff. And this chef is just pretending to be a certain type of person so that his restaurant is more successful. And Nicolas Cage just basically says, none of this is real. You're not real, which means they're not real. And none of this, everything's fake. Everything here is completely fake. And you're going to wake up every day and there's going to be less of you and less of you until there's nothing left that you will ever recognize again. And it's this massive awakening scene for this guy. And it's beautiful. And I think when people watch it, they assume, oh, I'm in the Nick Cage role here.
Mm.
And maybe sometimes in our life we are, but I think in other times we need to be kind of shaken awake, and somebody grabs our little camera and changes our camera angle to look at a situation differently. I want to be woken up like that in every possible way. And I think that's what we all need.
Is brainwashing real? What's true and false about that?
Brainwashing is absolutely real. There's a 4-step process, and it spells out the word fear. It's focus, emotion, agitation, and repetition. So if we start with focus, this is me routinely breaking what you are predicting to be what's going to happen next, over and over and over in a massive amount. 1 or 2 times, this is what triggers a mammal brain, our mammal brain, and a dog. You're walking down a pathway in the woods and a stick breaks behind a tree, and you're like, what was that? You're not worried about anything else. So the fastest way to generate human focus or mammal focus is novelty. Some genuine thing happens that you didn't expect. So that's the first. That's what we generate massive amount of focus. And then it's emotion. And with emotion, there's an old hypnosis technique that became popular in the 50s. This guy named Dr. Milton Erickson popularized this thing called fractionation. So you'll be familiar with like Channel 4 and Darren Brown. I know a lot of Americans aren't, but he's kind of there's no American equivalent of Darren Brown.
O's, maybe the closest? Perlman?
Yeah, Oz Perlman, yeah. So they figured out, like, if I pull somebody down in hypnosis and then take them gently out of it, when I put them right back down in, so this is in quick succession. I take you out of hypnosis and then I put you back into hypnosis again. You'll go deeper every time. And there's no such thing as depth in hypnosis. What they essentially mean is you'll have more GABA. You know what GABA is? It's a neurotransmitter in your system, like the safety chemical. And you'll also have a higher degree of theta wave brain state. And if I could just keep going up and then back down and up and then back down, you're deeper and deeper and deeper in a hole every single time. So if you look at your feed, anybody out there, you open whatever feed you want on whatever app you're thinking of right now. And you kind of scroll through your feed, you're going to see stuff that kind of brings you back up, but only for a second or two. And then it's fear and scarcity. And it follows the thing of getting your focus, showing you an authority figure, telling you something threatening, making you fearful of judgment of a tribe, and then making you emotional, and then bringing you back up and then back down in that cycle. So it's focus, authority, tribe, and emotion. You'll see it in your feed, guaranteed. And you don't even need to scroll for like 5 minutes. You'll see it right away. And then it'll be like one little thing to kind of bring you up, like one of those videos where the people are like, oh, we just found this baby deer on our porch one day and we decided to bottle feed him and raise him. And then, it's like a fast cut to where like he's a giant deer, like sleeping in the kid's bed or something. And he's like a family member now. It's like a heartwarming video that feels, and I love watching those, but it feels great. And then bam, they pull you back down again into the cycle. But what you'll notice after you see that fear video at the end of the focus, authority, tribe, and emotion, right at the end of that, they're either going to A, bring you up, or B, show you an ad. Now, I've never heard anybody talk about this before, but you can absolutely see it. And I'm not immune. Like, I've bought stupid shit on Instagram like anybody else. Knowing about this like doesn't get you vaccinated against manipulation. I bought the dumbest shit in the world on Instagram. It just means I'm a good, well-informed victim of this stuff. But that's the core of brainwashing is focus, emotion. That's that fractionation part of up and down. Then agitation. So this is doing something to where the mammalian brain recognizes this is a different environment than I was expecting, not a thing that's happening. So now the landscape is changing. The oil prices are going up. This big thing is happening. There's a shortage of some critical resource. And then repetition. So if it's in a detainee environment, the massive focus is them being woken up in the middle of the night over and over by strobe lights and loud sounds, cold water, that kind of stuff. Then the emotion, the entire time you're sitting there in your prison cell or whatever, I've got every photo your family's ever posted on the internet playing on a slideshow using a projector on the wall. So focus, emotion, then agitation. Something is extremely disrupting to your ability to predict the future. That's agitation, and then repetition. The cycle begins again. And you can kind of do whatever you want. That process creates a blank slate in people, and that's like the baseline formula of how brainwashing works.
And that is exactly what social media is using.
Yes, but I think a lot of people think, oh, there's some dark conference table, dudes smoking cigars. Like, how can we really mess these people up? I don't think it's that at all. I think it's just an algorithm that's rewarding what's creating the most revenue. So like showing you an ad for shoes is way easier after you watch the little baby deer video, or after I make you think that the water supply is being destabilized. So I think it's just an algorithm. I think there's many other things where there's people involved in manipulating the public. I don't think that social media is doing that on purpose. That one piece of it. The piece that I do absolutely think this being done on purpose is if you're on the left and you open your feed, you're going to be shown the dumbest piece of shit idiots on the other side that they could possibly find. And if you're on the right, you're going to be seeing the exact same thing about people on the left. And with the number one goal being, you in the deepest part of your mind, you cannot help but make a permanent judgment about reality of those people are effing crazy. All of them are crazy. I can't trust them. I can't listen to them. And this is a campaign that I think is called engineered division. And if I can get people fighting horizontally, they're not going to look up. If I can get somebody destabilized and kind of at odds with each other, your ability to think critically is reduced by like 50%. This is massive, and they've shown this in many studies. And just getting someone destabilized in that way, where they're kind of fighting each other, they're distrustful of their neighbors, they're 10 times more easy to manipulate. So if you think of like how our brain works, if you're falling off a cliff, your arms and legs are going to flail all over the place, they're moving everywhere. The first solid object that touches your body, you're going to like instinctively grab onto it. Even if it's a thorn bush or barbed wire, you'll grab it. So when a population is destabilized and something clear and logical is presented, something like a prepackaged enemy, I'll just leave that there, is given to you, you're 10 times more likely to accept it because it's clear, it's prepackaged, and it's easy to follow. And humans do not ever follow like the best leader in a situation. They follow the most followable. And there's a big difference between those things. So destabilization, that would be step number one. And two Chinese intelligence officers wrote a paper on this. I think it's called Unrestricted Warfare. It's been translated into English, and they use a hypothetical country that really looks like the United States in this paper. But they talk about this asymmetric warfare and how we have to get them fighting each other. We have to make them distrustful of each other, and we destabilize the government from the inside because we can't win a terrestrial war with these people. And they all of this is just written out there. You could buy this probably on Amazon for like $3 or $4. This translated book. It's probably online too. But it's very open. That it's not like the normal bad guys that you hear about. These are foreign state actors that are doing some of this stuff. We just had a former mayor of a city in California, I believe, that that was proven to be a operative for China, a mayor. And so I think people are thinking like there's some ancient rich family, in the depths of some cave somewhere plotting the destruction of the world. I think it's just countries that hate each other and greedy, selfish companies. Um, and maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but if you're watching the news and you don't hear nuance, you are being manipulated. Because they're giving you a message. Here's the enemy. Here's how to feel about what you're watching on the news. And here's exactly what's happening. And they'll tell you that this, and this, all these three things happen. They'll never tell you how they're connected. They'll act like everything's a separate story. So I think there's an agenda. I won't pretend. I'd be a fool to say like I can understand or know the end game of any of this stuff. That was a long ass answer to your question.
What makes a leader followable?
Yeah. There are authority first, the perception of authority. And we trust in order. There are 5 things that make us trust another human being. First is confidence. So the person doesn't have any reservations. They're talking clearly. They're speaking in a way that I can clearly understand. They're not using academic language, which is why most presidents, the president who speaks at a lower grade level is, I think, like 35% more likely to win a debate. So that makes them followable, right? Confidence and literacy, like it's clear to understand them. They're very confident. Next is discipline. And I don't mean that the person is like making videos of themselves waking up and like, hey, here's my morning routine. But I mean, like, we can see discipline on people. We can see somebody that has self-control and discipline, and that starts coming through. We can pick up on that. And then leadership, and for good or bad, there's cult leaders that have all these problems or all these qualities too. Gratitude and enjoyment. The gratitude just being like, I'm thankful for what's happening right now in the moment. I'm emotionally stable. I'm easy to follow. But we're not really going into all that. Our brain's shortcut is that we follow someone who is probably loudest, clearest, and has no hesitation in their behavior. So our brains are trained to look for micro hesitations and automatically give us a little gut feeling of, I shouldn't trust that person. So micro hesitations are the fastest way to destroy authority.
In both of those scenarios that you just described, the world being chaotic and difficult and confusing, and something being offered up as order. In one example, it's an enemy that's prepackaged. There's order. Why is this going bad? It could be a million reasons, or it could be that group over there. And the same thing for leaders. I don't understand what's going to happen. We've got all of these different directions that we could go down. Don't worry. All of that chaos doesn't need to be worried about, because I have the order and I can wrangle this system to bring it to bear.
Yeah. For better or worse. And that's what happens. And if you the way that I describe this very simply is the process is to close down a machine or close everything down, build pressure inside of it, and then decide where the pressure is going to release. So it's a controlled release of pressure that's been being built up on purpose. And sometimes that is like the pressure is some relief. Like we have this national thing that's happening and the pressure release is chosen at a certain point. And there's a lot of people that say, like, track the money. If you track pressure, like financial pressure, economic pressure, shipping and trade pressure, oil shipping around the world, tracking the pressure is always more revealing from an intelligence perspective than tracking the money. This pressure is going to show you like it has to have a release valve somewhere. And 9 times out of 10, there is a person or group of people that are choosing how and where the release valve is going to be.
Before we continue, I wish someone had told me 5 years ago to stop overthinking nutrition and just find something that works. I've simplified mine down to 1 scoop a day, and it's made hitting my nutritional bases an awful lot easier. AG1 includes 75 vitamins, minerals, probiotics, and whole food ingredients, and that is why I've been drinking it every morning for over 5 years now. And they've taken it a step further with AG1 Next Gen, the same one-scoop ritual, but now backed by 4 clinical trials. In those trials, AG1 was shown to fill common nutrient gaps, boost healthy gut bacteria by 10 times, and improve key nutrient levels in just 3 months. They've been refining the formula since 2010, 52 iterations and counting, and I love the Next Gen because it's more bioavailable, it's clinical validation, which is unbelievably rare in the supplement world. The older I get, the more I realize that the small stuff compounds, and this is one of the smallest things I do that makes a massive difference. If you're still on the fence, they've got a 90-day money-back guarantee in the US, so you can buy it and try it for 3 months, and if you do not like it, they'll just give you your money back. Right now, you can get a free AG1 welcome kit that includes a bottle of D3K2, AG1 flavor sampler, and that 90-day money-back guarantee by going to the link in the description below or heading to drinkag1.com/modernwisdom. That's drinkag1.com/modernwisdom. What's the outcome you think that those people want?
Like they?
Yeah, if there is, part of this is social media algorithms have reverse engineered the way that humans' brains work because it's a very simple algorithm.
Super simple.
And the fact that it's simple is why it's so effective, because if you started to put constraints on it, you would be trying to predict the best way to get the outcome that you want. The best way to get the outcome that you want is to just let it optimize for that outcome and reverse engineer however it got there.
Yeah.
That's why we can complain all we want about the algorithms, but even the engineers, you open up the black box of YouTube or you open up the black box of TikTok, they don't know what's happening inside of there. There is no knowing about what's happening inside of there. This is just recursive algorithms training itself.
Yeah.
Interesting. The coolest thing I learned about this is from Stuart Russell, guy that wrote the textbook on AI. So up until probably 2020, when the transformer technology and LLMs came along, it may still be the case. I know he's still talking about this a lot. I think his textbook had been translated into 100 languages. So it was used around the world. It was the canonical textbook for AI, Stuart Russell. He wrote this book called Human Compatible. He's talking about computers, humans, some psychology, a lot of AI and computer science. And he said that there's 2 ways that algorithms can become better at predicting what it is that you're going to click on. The first one is serving you content, which is more akin to something that you want to press, right? Like if all that you're trying to optimize is CTR and watch time, basically, which is kind of every algorithm now, I can just better predict what it is that you want and give you that. But the other side is I can nudge your preferences to make them easier to predict. So it's a bi-directional relationship. And it's not like anybody told the black box algorithm to go and do this. But over time, it knows, hey, if I walk people down this sequence of steps, and this is where I think the truth about pipelines and radicalization comes along, but it's not necessarily radicalization to an extreme of one particular worldview. It's an extreme of predictability.
Yeah.
And this bi-directional relationship between becoming better at working out what you want to click and becoming better at making you more predictable to work out your preferences.
Yeah.
That is really, I mean, it's, when he told me about it, it blew my mind. It's one of the most mind-blowing things that I've ever heard.
Dude, I've got to read this because
It's fucking spectacular, eh?
when I teach like persuasion and influence, I'm actually here in town today teaching. I've been on stage all morning doing a seminar training.
You need new time.
Kind of thing.
That's what you need. Yeah.
So when I teach, what I'm telling people is your first goal is being able to engineer and build the perfect client. So I'm make the person the perfect recipient for what I need to give them. So if I know the outcome is I need you to click on baby deer videos, I'm going to engineer the shit out of that to where I'm not going to like just start showing them to you. I'm going to make you the perfect recipient before I start shifting your behavior. So the way that I typically describe this is if you learn persuasion, interrogation, sales, whatever it is, they're going to teach you how to engineer outcomes because people are obsessed with the outcome. But I argue that if you're good, what you engineer are conditions. And if I can engineer the right conditions, I can get you to do anything, anything. And just as an example, just of how powerful conditions and context are. I think it was in the 1940s. This like stage hypnotist guy is doing like a comedy club thing, we're like, oh, the guy next to you farted and it smells really bad. You're on a roller coaster now. And like all of this stuff. But there's like 10 or 15 people up on stage. And then a part of the show is, all right, all of you are cops. You got called to a party. Everybody in the audience is a party right now. And the more the audience laughs, the more you're going to get upset. So they get up and they're not allowed to leave the stage. So they're all kind of yelling, pretending like these kids are like a house party or something. Then he's like, oh, one of them's got a gun. He's going to take you down. And one of these guys on the stage is an off-duty police officer carrying a weapon, starts firing into the crowd, a real gun. And I think one person was in, I don't know if he died, but it shot a real gun into a crowd. The cop was a good person, well-meaning, just wanted to go out with his wife, for an evening. But context can dictate your behavior no matter what. Like, we're going to probably, both you and I, not together, but we will get naked by the end of the day, both of us.
Well,
we're going to get into a shower.
The day is young.
The day is young. We're going to get into a shower, get into a bath, whatever. But we're not like, as we're standing in front of the shower, we're not like, oh, I don't know if I should. We just get naked, right? So context tells us what's allowed. So if I can modify context, I can get you to do anything. All I have to do is, it's a PCP formula. I change your perception about the situation that's going on. Then I say, yeah, since you're viewing this differently, it's actually this situation where people are trying to do X. Or I reframe this as someone is a complete threat. But I've changed your perception of what's possible to do. Then the context is some person is a threat. And they are a mortal. Now I say the word mortal. They're a mortal threat. So I've changed the category. And if I shift category and context, that changes what you think you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. Does that make sense? So like if I'm in a perfect world, the only question, like if you're really good at this stuff, like a lot of these systems are, what is the context where the behavior I want you to do is automatic? What is the context? So if I can make you believe that you're in a shooting range and you're actually standing in a bar, your behavior is going to be very different. So what you're really seeing over time is a drift of perception and then context. So with this PCP, perception, context, and permission. Permission is that final thing that says, oh, in this context, I'm completely allowed to do this and it makes perfect sense. So a lot of what we're seeing is context engineering. So if you look at the Milgram experiment, which I think a lot of people are familiar with, essentially they prove that people will shock strangers what they think is to death in about 47 minutes at a 70% success rate or failure rate, whatever you want to call that. But they didn't have a script. There wasn't some magic sales script where they brought them in and they had the right words to say and the magic hypnosis guy that comes in there. It's just a dude in a lab coat. And all they did in the Milgram experiment is engineer the conditions that make it okay. The context made that shocking behavior permissible.
You mentioned there about people or technologies that are unbelievably good at manipulating behavior. When it comes to seeing operators, people, who's the most effective behavioral manipulator that you've ever seen operate in front of you?
I can't say names. The guy's, I think he's still active, but he could get pretty much anybody to do anything, but he shifted the context. So what the task that I gave him is go into this very social environment. There's like a band playing. It's like a bar, like a pub.
This is a real thing.
Yeah. And I said, I want you to have someone, let's say, laid out on the floor, thinking that they're just completely unconscious in like 7 minutes. And I couldn't hear anything that was being said. And he did it. He did it within like 3-4 minutes. And I asked him, I said, what did you do? And he's like, oh, I just told her I was a hypnotherapist. And I asked how she wanted to change her life. And she was really, really excited that she wanted more discipline. And I just told her I would give her more discipline, and it's really easy. So he shifted the context to her being helped instead of controlled, and made it okay for her to be laying on the floor, and made everything okay just because he shifted the context. It's the same in interrogation rooms, to where the context shifts, and there's like a 5-step protocol that people use to make someone confess to a crime. And if you really examine what the protocol is, it's just a massive shift in context and perception.
What's the protocol?
You ready?
Yes.
All right. So it's socialize, minimize, rationalize, and project.
Is that not 4?
Yeah. It's 4 steps, and then there's an alternative question at the end.
Okay.
Is it this or this? So just like name a crime that's not gross that we can actually talk about. Anything you want, like stolen
Texting
money.
while driving.
Okay. Texting while, well, they're not going to be in an interrogation room.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Smuggling arms.
Okay. Smuggling arms. Great. All right. So the first step would be social.
Fucking interrogation room for texting while driving. There's just armies of interrogators up and down the United States highways. Okay.
It might solve the problem.
Yeah.
Okay. So smuggling arms. So you're talking to this person, and you decided that it's time to shift into interrogation. The beginning of an interrogation is called the interview process, and the shift is called the confrontation. So the confrontation is basically just where you tell them that they're lying, but you don't do it in a way that hurts their ego. So I might say something like, Chris, I appreciate you, and I just want you to know I've been doing this a really long time. I've talked to a lot of people. And if there's one thing I know for sure, it's when I'm not getting the full story. And I don't think I'm getting the full story here. And then I go right into the socialize part of this thing. And when I say socialize, it's basically people will understand. So the line is, I think at the end of the day, you did this because you're a good person. And I'm going to explain why. And I've talked to a lot of bad people, and I know you're not a bad person. And I think when people see all of the steps that led up to you getting wrapped up in this, that they're going to understand. Then minimize. And like I said, I don't think you're a bad guy. And to be honest, I deal with bad people all the time, and people that do way worse stuff than this. I've seen people that have done way worse than this get completely over it. So it's not that big of a deal. Nobody's accusing you of being some mass murderer or something like that. This is not the same thing. Then it's rationalize. I know you came from a poor village. I know that you had a really tough background, and I know that you're a good person. And I'm not saying whether or not you were doing this to pay for it, but I know that your aunt has several $100,000 of medical bills that she's needed to pay. Now I project. So now project is basically, it's not your fault. And I think anybody that was handed your conditions and your life would have probably made the same choices that you did. And I know a lot of times these arms smuggling rings will use threats and pressure to get someone into the unit. So if that happened to you, I just want you to know that's something that I want to know about. So I know that you didn't deliberately decide to do this. And then we move into the alternative question. And I'll say, so Chris, what I'm really trying to find out here is, were you doing this just to make a bunch of money and then go buy a bunch of drugs and live in some other country? Or were you really trying to help one of your family members? Because I know these guys have been talking to you, and I've looked into you as well, and it doesn't look like you're a bad person. So now it's an alternative question of, are you a piece of crap, or did you try to do something good for your family? So that's
both of them are admissions of guilt, though.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just trying to find out the reason that this happened. Yeah.
You're not. You're trying to find out an admission of guilt.
Yes. Yes. But in the conversation, we're trying to find the reason it happened. So we're going for the admission of guilt because the first part of the interrogation, there's a long series of questions we ask. And based on those responses, if they respond a certain way to each question, then we move towards the confession methodology. So they're basic questions like, if there was a robbery or in some neighborhood here, can I say the city that we're in?
Of course.
Okay. So let's say 2 blocks away, or maybe, Yeah, 2 blocks from here, there's a neighborhood in Austin. And there's a neighborhood there, and let's say you robbed a house. One of those questions to determine how guilty you are is one of my favorite questions in the world. It's called the bait question. And it basically says, let's imagine you did this. I want to put you in the mindset so you can understand the question. Let's say you stole a bike out of this person's garage a couple days ago. I called you up and like, hey, I think you might have seen something that's going to help us in the case. Could you please come in here and talk to us about the case? You come in and I say, Chris, dude, thank you for coming in. This is important to us. We've got officers out there that they've been working all through the night, collecting evidence and stuff. I just want to ask you one question, and you seem like a really good guy. So I want you to think really carefully before you answer this. Is there any reason whatsoever that one of the neighbors would have a Ring doorbell camera that shows your vehicle in that area? So now you're confronted with a dilemma of, if I say no and he whoops out a video, now I'm a liar and they probably know that I did this. If I say yes, I'm placing myself at the scene of the crime, right? And the cool thing is that someone who's innocent would be like, nope. And it would be instantly, they would have no hesitation. They'd have tons of confidence of, nope, there's absolutely no reason. So that's one of those kind of setup questions. And another
that's
one,
regardless of whether you've got the Ring doorbell footage or not.
Yes, and I don't say that I have it.
Is there any reason why?
Yes. Is there any reason that one of the officers would have received some Ring doorbell or some doorbell video camera footage that shows your vehicle in that area? Not you do anything bad. And another one is another great question. I can't reveal all these, but another great question is called the punishment question. And this works on kids. It works on adults. It doesn't matter. And it's just a few words long. I would say, what do you think should happen to the person that did this? And you always get amazing answers. I'll give you my kids' example. And this is from when they were 7 and 8, give or take. I came home from work. I'm in my camo uniform, and we had a white living room rug, and there's like a little cardboard thing of chocolate milk, just like sitting on its side, and there's like a little pool of chocolate milk on the carpet. And they were both playing the Xbox. The milk's like right there, a few feet away. I was like, what the hell, guys? They're like, oh, I don't know. And I was like, did you guys do this? And they're like, nope. And I said, all right, William, kitchen, Charlotte, dining room.
You fucking prisoner's dilemmaed them.
Yeah. And I went over to Charlotte. Yeah, it was Charlotte. And I said, Charlotte, what do you think should happen to the person that did this? And she goes, spankings, grounded, no more Xbox, can't play with the friends, no more sleepovers, can't eat in the living room anymore. It just goes on and on. I was like, okay, all right.
It's a kid's equivalent of capital punishment.
Yeah. And I was like, damn. So I went to William and I said, Will, what do you think should happen to the person that did this? He goes, maybe no more chocolate milk in the living room. And there we go. I had my guy. Really quick.
Have you ever seen those videos of when there's 3 dogs in the house and one of them's ripped the shit out of a couch or something, and 2 of them are just sort of looking like this, and the other one's got his face up against the wall?
That is so good.
I want to see dog interrogation videos, dude. Before we continue, most people in their 30s are still training hard. Their protein is dialed in. They sleep better than they did in their 20s. Discipline is not the issue, but recovery feels somewhat different. Strength gains take a little longer. The margin for error starts to shrink. And that is why I'm such a huge fan of Timeline. You see, mitochondria are the energy producers inside of your muscle cells. As they weaken with age, your ability to generate power and recover effectively changes, even if your habits stay strong. MitoPure from Timeline contains the only clinically validated form of urethylene A used in human trials. It promotes mitophagy, which is your body's natural process for clearing out damaged mitochondria and renewing healthy ones. In studies, this supported mitochondrial function and muscle strength in older adults. It's not about pushing harder. It's about actually supporting the cellular machinery underneath your training. If you care about staying strong into your 30s, 40s, and 50s and beyond, this is foundational. Best of all, there is a 30-day money-back guarantee plus free shipping in the US, and they ship internationally. And right now, you can get up to 20% off by going to the link in the description below or heading to timeline.com/modernwisdom and using the code modernwisdom at checkout. That's timeline.com/modernwisdom and modern wisdom at checkout. All right. So when it comes to building rapport, what are the techniques that elite negotiators use to create rapport quickly?
Number one is making an admission that other people might be embarrassed about, of having a fault of some kind or being insecure about something.
Revealing something.
Yeah. Just being something that's honest and true. So it resonates.
What would be an example?
It would depend on the situation, but I might say something like,
bike stolen. Let's stay with that.
What?
The stolen bike or the arms, whichever you want.
Well, yeah. So you're talking about interrogation room rapport?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's different.
Or actually, stick with the normal rapport, and then we'll go back to interrogation room.
Yeah.
Rapport.
So normal rapport, the admission might be, I was so like in my own head. I was so afraid to be open around other people. And I kind of like wore a mask for the like 10, 15 years of my life until I realized like it's not a big deal as I think it is. I'm not a big deal as I thought I was. And just saying something that other people really wouldn't and being honest about it is one of the fastest ways to make trust start happening in a conversation, because just people are so fake that is somehow rare now. And that's why I think podcasts where there's a genuine dude on there get more views than CNN. I think Rogan's got more views than CNN. But at the end of the day, that's one of the fastest ways to do it. Another one of the fastest ways to do it in this world is to have ignorance and fascination about something that you pride yourself in knowing a lot about. So like if you're an electrical engineer or something, or maybe you wire podcast studios for a living. I'd be like, God, that's always fascinated me with all that stuff. I don't think I could do that if I tried for a year. I'm just not inclined to do that, but it's still fascinating. That's one of the fastest ways to absolutely do that. And I do think rapport is a little bit overrated. I think at the end of the day, having contagious confidence to where your confidence is high enough to where the other person feels confident is so much more effective, and rapport is a byproduct of that. So I always try to think like, what is upstream of the thing that I want? So if I want this as my desired end state, what are all the things that needed to happen to make this just an automatic byproduct of what I want at the end of the day? And one of the things that we found out over these years is in an interrogation room or in some business setting, it doesn't actually matter, is this level of confidence without any hierarchy or status. And the biggest mistake that most people make is like, if I say the word confidence, you're going to think more than who, or higher than, or less confidence than. And that hierarchy thinking is the fastest way to collapse any kind of skill in human beings, because it pushes your awareness back behind your eyes. And I think if your awareness is in front of your eyes, people can really, really feel that. And one metaphor I use to talk about this a lot is, if I could go on a slight rant here, if you went into we're in Austin, so there's probably a piano store somewhere. Like, let's say you and I went into like a big ass piano store, and they've got this big grand piano there. And I go up to the piano and I smash down the middle key really hard, which is a C. It's going to send out this frequency through the entire store. And the C string on every other piano is going to start resonating like crazy. But it's only that string is going to vibrate. It's because it's tuned to that frequency, right? It's not going to vibrate any other strings except for C. The same thing works for tuning forks. So when I teach this stuff, it's that humans work almost exactly the same way. And one of the phrases that I teach is, wherever you're speaking from is where you're going to speak to in other people. Where you speak from, you will speak to. So if we're in a conversation and I'm worried about hierarchy and status, I'm plucking that same chord in the person I'm speaking to, because that comes through. If I'm very confident and not insecure confidence, posturing kind of stuff, that's going to trigger confidence in the other person. So true confidence is really contagious. And the other confidence, like where you can tell somebody's like read 15 of those LinkedIn articles of like, oh, how to display CEO level confidence. Make solid eye contact, firm handshake, pat somebody on the arm, use their name, that kind of shit. Genuine confidence makes other people confident. Absolutely. And having enough confidence to share without ever viewing it in the lens of hierarchy and status is the fastest way to like this, whatever people call charisma. I think it's the fastest route.
How do you think about appearing confident in a room?
Can you rephrase that?
What are the component parts of appearing confident to somebody?
Well, what we're really doing, like if you read one of those articles about like how confident people command a room and all like, there's YouTube videos all day long for that stuff. What I think they're made of is they're studying the symptoms of confidence. So if I wrap you in a heating blanket and squirt water in your nose, it does not give you COVID, but it gives you a couple of symptoms, right? It doesn't work in reverse all the time. So what I think a lot of those people that train online is they see somebody who's genuinely confident and like, oh, what are they doing with their body? They're standing up straight. They're speaking from their diaphragm. They're doing all of these things. They use hand gestures like this. And then, okay, they're like, okay, let's make an Excel spreadsheet out of this. We're going to figure this shit out. Like, all right, how wide was the hand gesture? Like, let me check. It's 36 inches. Yeah, it was 36. So then we train somebody to do this with their hands at 36 inches and they've got social anxiety. They're going to look like an idiot. It's not going to look congruent. It's going to feel like, whoa, what's going on with this guy? So I think our culture is just obsessed with symptoms in general. Like I want the Ferrari and the yacht, and I don't want the bank account. I mean, I want the symptoms of being wealthy. I want to show people that I have symptoms of wealth. But if you look at the cause of confidence, and I think my definition of confidence is way different than what you'll read online, but I think confidence is two elements. Number one, it is a willingness to receive social injury. I'm willing to be socially injured. Number two, it is a generalized or kind of a fuzzy belief that things are going to work out okay. Things are going to be okay. So that social injury is typically why people can't feel confident. So it's social injury or permission. I don't have permission to be like that here. If I make $50K a year, I'm not going to be confident walking into that Hermes, whatever, Louis Vuitton
Never
luggage
shop
place.
Fucking Gucci.
Yeah. Whatever. And the confidence comes from like permission. I don't have permission to be here. They can tell that I'm not from here. So that's a role-based permission. But if you're willing to receive social injury, you're totally fine with it. You have a generalized expectation that things are going to be okay. That is the first step to like really feeling confident and completely eliminating hierarchy and status from your mental thoughts forever, for the rest of your life, I think is the best way.
Because it's not related to how you and somebody else interact. It's within you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like this is going to go okay. And if social rejection does come my way, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, it's a social injury and that's okay. It might hurt. I'm not saying I'm immune to any of it. It might hurt, but I'm okay. I'm happy to receive it.
What do you make of Trump's behavior? How do you analyze him as a communicator?
He's a fabulous communicator. I think he speaks at a 7th grade level. A lot of good leaders speak at a low level. I think Obama was 7th or 8th grade level as well. But why do they do that? Because they will become more followable. Like exactly what we were talking about with authority and why we follow authority figures in times of distress. And I think he's a communicator that is obviously self-serving, self-fulfilling, and people call him a narcissist, which is a diagnostic term for insurance companies, which is why that was invented. But you say whatever you want, but I think he's a great communicator. I think he gets the point across, and he's very idiosyncratic. He's weird. He does stuff that other people don't do. He breaks from a lot of the norms. But the communication is effective. Why is it effective, though? Like, how does he get so much attention? Well, one, he's kind of loud. But number two, it's novelty. We talk like novelty massively generates focus in human beings. And he's like a novelty master. He's a magician of novelty. So he's the dude when it comes to that. And he is not the clearest communicator when it comes to like long vision and plans and stuff like that. But he says things that are followable. He has ideas that are very easy to follow. Man, Shane Gillis did a bit about him talking about Baghdadi when Baghdadi, have you seen it? It's one of the best videos on YouTube. But it was just hilarious how it was absolutely simple how he communicated everything. And it painted a picture in your head.
Yeah.
And he did it in a way that didn't have to use literary, flowery poetry language and all of that. But it put a very clear picture in your head when he said that stuff.
It's interesting to think about how distinctive someone's voice is. And it's typical that a lot of people that have massive cultural influence have a distinctive... If you can do an impression of someone, probably a good indication they've got quite a distinctive voice.
Yeah.
You can do an impression of Jordan Peterson quite easily. Very distinctive voice. You can do an impression of Andrew Tate quite easily. Very distinctive voice, distinctive speaking cadence, repetition, Russell Brand, unnecessarily verbose and articulate, sort of meandering sentences, listicle style. With Trump, sort of punchy thing, superfluous restatement of the past point with embellishment and a little bit of bravado. Obama, staccato, very sharp.
Yep.
It's this, and then it's this, and then this, like pop, 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 pop. I think that there's something to be said about a signature